to welcome our final speaker, Mr. Rory Burke. And I can't think of a more fitting way to close out the series. Rory is one of those people that I feel like I've known for the last 10 years, but we're only...
Oh, you lost the volume.
What's happened? No, it's frozen.
Oh, it froze.
Dion, we cannot hear you. I think you froze, Dion.
Rory, it's only Dion that froze. So you're okay, Rory.
Yeah, we're okay.
You're very much unfrozen.
I can see you, Dion, but no, I can see
signal
you,
not
but
great.
Dion's frozen.
Okay, Dion is back. Yeah. Yes, Dion is back. Dion said you were just gone a bit. But Dion is frozen again. Dion? Okay, yeah, then yes, I think you're back, Dion.
Dion knows that. You're okay.
Dion,
Dion?
just say something. Dion?
I don't think he can hear us.
It doesn't look like he can hear us. Okay, he's just going to go off
Yeah,
and back
let's
on.
just allow Dion to log out and log back in again.
There's Dion coming back. Okay, Dion, you're back.
Okay, thank goodness. Apologies for that. That was quite a bumpy start. So let me just retry this. I'm not sure what you've heard and where you lost me, but I was saying this is our final session in the APM guest lecture series, and I can't think of a more fitting way than to close this series out with Mr. Rory Burke's contribution. I was saying that Rory is one of those people that I feel like I've known for 10 years, but we only recently met during a digital conversation like this. And we were exchanging ideas about, project management training, the long way it's come, where it currently finds itself, etc. And the reason why I feel like I know Rory for so long is because we've always been making use of his textbooks. Currently, I think in the third version of what we're using, and we will also next year be upgrading to his new release that was released this year to include also AI in project management. Now, Rory founded Burke Publishing in '88. When he wrote his first book on project management, he has an MSc from Henley. He's got degrees in naval architecture from the Solent University and a computer-aided engineering degree from the University of Coventry. He's worked all over the world as a consultant, as a guest lecturer at universities, as an author. And probably the one thing that I'm most envious about is that Rory also sails right across the world. When I first approached him for this guest lecture session, he was stuck in New Zealand, of all places, having sailed there, and then the pandemic got a hold of him there, but he's now back and well in the UK. Rory, thank you so much. We look forward in anticipation to your contribution today. The group has been very interactive this week, so please feel free to engage in conversation, to ask questions like we've discussed, and to the audience as well. Rory is a man with a wealth of knowledge and experience as far as it relates to this field, and get as much out of this session as possible. Rory, now you can share your screen, and what will happen is you will unfortunately not see us anymore. You will only see your presentation, but people will raise their hands and I will allow them to ask questions. They can type questions into the chat box, which I'll also facilitate the asking of. Over to you, Rory. Welcome.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you very much for the introduction. Now, how will I know when somebody's asking a question?
They will let me know. I can see the notification, and I will interrupt you just briefly to let them ask the question, Rory.
Right. Okay. So I'll go on to sharing screen.
I think it was a little bit low down.
And on the share.
Have we got the PowerPoint open?
Hold on, a bit of technical things here. Stand by.
No worries.
It's all the AI, Rory.
Oh no, it's,
I know.
I'm only at the concept stage.
Do the share tray.
What are you doing?
No, I didn't do that, sweetheart.
No, I wasn't trying to advertise all my books then.
Right, so you can see it there. Right, open share. I think the PowerPoint's gone off. Hang on, where's the PowerPoint? No, the PowerPoint's there.
Yeah.
Okay, you might have to take us through again. Right, I've got open share screen.
No, don't want the PowerPoint. No,
share that. But
no, it's not showing.
Okay, can you see that?
Dion, can you see my PowerPoint?
Not yet.
Hold on, I need to go back a bit then.
So if you're currently sharing, just stop share, select share again, and then you select screen.
Select share again.
Open tray, share screen.
Yeah.
Last time it had that screen came up.
We know it's dumbfounded us. I'm sorry. Sorry, Dion. Just say again the. Right. So we went. Well, I'll cancel that. Right. We're on the share tray again. Sorry. Share tray. Open share tray.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Screen share.
That's it.
Oh gosh. All you can see is desktop window. Should I try that?
Yeah, you can try that.
Window. Entire screen. Window.
Yes, entire screen.
Okay, we are on entire screen. Why isn't it coming up?
It's not showing.
Oh, cancelled. Choose what to share.
You can choose and maybe select the presentation then.
Yeah, well, let's try again. We have that open, and we bring it up, and then right, we've got that open. So why isn't it sharing?
No.
Okay, do you want to have it?
Dion, is it possible that you could put the presentation up?
It is absolutely possible. Let me quickly find it.
Oh, I think it could be that. Oh no, it's the video.
Because this is where we were last time, but that share button came up. Oh, there it is.
Okay, I've got it now.
Right, now it's going to come up.
It might take you back. I'm not sure. It might take us back to.
That's it.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, we seeing ourselves.
What can? Hold on. Yeah.
No, here.
No.
Yeah. You're absolutely fine. Just open up the PowerPoint now.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Let me get that now. Okay.
Sure.
Right. So I'll just go through the first couple of slides because Dion's already introduced them. Thank you, Dion. So those are my 3 degrees, which is sort of my technical background. So naval architecture, computer-aided engineering, and then more lately project management. And I've worked in the UK, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and New Zealand. So that's the extent of my working area. So when I did my first degree in naval architecture, it was done as a block release course, which meant I had 2 terms in the university and 1 term out. And that really worked very well for me because it allowed me to get experience on the technical aspect of what I was doing. So the first job I had was with BAE Systems, which is the defence procurement in Britain, and it was building sidewall hovercrafts. So these were mostly used as ferries and workboats in protected waters. But it actually it gave me the experience of seeing jobs being identified in job cards, and that of course links in with the work breakdown structure and the product breakdown structure. Then I was very fortunate with my second block release. I worked for the National Physical Laboratory, NPL. Now they're Britain's main testing establishment, and I was working in the marine section. And I've given you this slide just to show that this was in the 70s when the North Sea was developing, and as they got into deeper and deeper water, having an oil rig that sat on the bottom just didn't become feasible anymore. And if you look at the numbers on the top, they were moving towards 4, 5, and 6, where the oil rigs actually float, and they're called tethered leg platforms. And what was concerning them was as the oil rigs move, so do the pipes coming up from the seabed. So if you look on the right hand side, that gives you another idea of all the pipes going down to the bottom. So our test was to strain gauge the pipes and work out the correlation between the two. And it was done in this enormous tank, which had a carriage. If you look top left, there's a carriage there, and all our models fitted into there. Now, just to sort of bring in as a side point, Alan Turing also worked at NPL, and he's now one of the most prominent scientists in Britain. I'm not sure if South Africa is also acknowledging him. If you look top left, he's now the face on the new £50 note. So if you come over to Britain and you get a £50 note, you'll see his face there. Now, there's 3 areas which he's now become famous for. The original one was the work he did during the Second World War on the Enigma code at Bletchley Park, and that's the images at the bottom there. And if you look bottom right, there's Benedict Cumberbatch in a film called Imitation Game, which is essentially all about Alan Turing, and I'll just come back to that in a moment. But in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, computing, or a computer, essentially could only do one thing, and if you wanted to change it, you almost had to rebuild the computer and re-establish the wiring and everything. Now, Alan Turing, he envisaged what he called the universal computer, which would have a stored program. And of course, that's the model of computing that we have at the moment. So in that respect, he's sometimes seen as the father of the modern day computer. Also, he wrote a paper in the 40s on machine intelligence. And this is where a machine could, or a computer could, analyze its own programs and correct its own mistakes. And of course, today, we would call that AI. So he's also seen as the father of AI. But now, getting back to Alan Turing and what he did during the Second World War, the way they solved the Enigma code was to assume what the text was saying and work backwards. And in some respects, if I show you my next slide, that's how I've developed my project plan. Because the way I see this is that you've got a number of interrelated variables, typically time, procurement, resources, and costs, but you've really only got one equation. And I'm sure if you remember your algebra, if you've got 4 variables, you actually need 4 equations. So the way we do this in project management is when you do your time analysis, CPM, you actually make assumptions for the procurement, the resources, and the costs, a bit like Alan Turing, and then you resolve for time, and then progressively you bring in the others and readjust your plan if necessary. So I see a sort of a loose link there. Then what I found intriguing is once I got one job model testing, the next time I went looking for a student placement, I was then offered another job model testing. And in this case, it was with the Admiralty Experimental Works near Portsmouth. And this was like admirals playing with the toys in the bath. If I was there now, the model we would be testing would be the aircraft carrier. So that's the image I show you there. But I was there in the 70s, and the 70s was all about the Cold War submarines. So we were actually working on the submarines. And the model I was working on was the same as the submarines that were used in the Falkland War. And that's the one on the bottom right there. So that was quite useful in seeing this, if anything, was the feasibility or even the design before the feasibility of projects. And of course, these were enormous programs. And then when I finished my degree, sure enough, the first job I got offered was again model testing. And I was involved in a large experiment to look into the safe handling of liquid petroleum gas for Shell oil, because at the time they were burning off gas, which we would see as very wasteful now. And the only place they would allow us to do this experiment was on a firing range. And this experiment went on for a couple of years. I was only involved in it for about a year, but it showed me how, again, the sort of the preloading of research that goes in before a program can develop. And then something else I wanted to bring in at the National Maritime Institute. This is where Christopher Cockrell developed the hovercraft. Now, he'd retired by then, and in developing this presentation, I just wanted to check when he retired. And he would have been in his early 70s when I was working there. And I look back on that now and think, what a great opportunity I could have had to contact him, and I never did. And I would say to your students that if you have the opportunity to contact someone, eminent person, do it, because the worst that can happen is he says no, but that could be a great experience if you did.
Rory, if I may interrupt you.
Sure.
Louise actually made the comment now. What a privilege to meet Rory. So I assume what you're saying is that the students can make contact with you and have conversations with you. Was that an open invitation, Rory?
Well, partly, because it has intrigued me over the last 10 years or so. I've had a number of students from South Africa contact me, which I'm honoured that they did, but they would ask me to be doing their homework.
And that's not fair, hey?
Well, I was quite intrigued, because in Britain, you'd never ask your lecturer to do your homework for you, but I mean, I'd point them to where they would need to find the information. But it just intrigued me that why not go to the source when you have a problem? So maybe I can learn something from that. Yeah.
I think we should leave the conversation there.
Yeah. Okay. So
thank you.
I then moved to South Africa. So this would be 1980, and again, this was a great move on my part, because this was the time when South Africa had a lot of embargoes, and they had to make everything themselves, and there was lots of technical jobs available. So my first job when I came over was to work with the Navy in Simonstown, and the vessel you see there is the Drakensberg, which is a fleet replenishment ship, and I did the structural design for that ship, and that was a great experience for me. Now, what I wanted to link that with project management, if you look in the top right hand corner, it shows a design spiral. So the process for designing a ship is you go step by step through the different parameters, and then you come back and revise them, and you keep going round and round until you come to an optimum design. Now, that's exactly what I've done with the project management spiral. If you look bottom right, I've started with the vision and values, requirement, business case, feasibility, charter, and you go through all the different steps. And the idea is that you keep going round and round, and you're refining and refining with each step. And so I got that idea from naval architecture, because that's the way we design ships. And I thought, well, that's the way we should be designing projects as well. And of course, now that's called Agile project management. And if I've a mistake I've made in my books is really to understate Agile. When I come to revise the next edition, there'll be Agile mentioned all over the place, because in many respects, project management is Agile. The whole point of project management is to have a flexible approach. The next big job I had in South Africa was this big oil tank farm, which is in Saldanha Bay. And that was a great experience. South Africa, because of all the oil issues, had built this enormous tank farm. And getting involved, I was on the mechanical side. That was a great experience to see how all that worked together. And of course, linking in with the petrochemical standards, which are of a very high degree. Then the next job I had was up in Doorbell Shipbuilding in Durban. And I was involved not so much in the design of the vessels, but more on the estimating. And of course, this is an important part of project management, in the feasibility from a financial side, also the design. And so the way we would estimate the cost of building a ship would be to look at the weight of the ship, and I was able. This would have been in the early 80s, so this was really sort of I was doing everything on a hand calculator, so not really even a computer. I could estimate, if you look at that offshore supply vessel there, I could give you the weight of that ship within an hour, and it would be so many man hours per ton and so many dollars or rands per man hour. So I could give you the cost of building that ship within an hour, and that when I looked back through the records, that was fairly accurate. So that was a good experience from that perspective. Then, after being in South Africa a few years, I went back to Britain and I went to Coventry University and I did a postgraduate.
Rory.
Yeah, sure.
Dion here. I just want to interrupt you quickly. You know, living in a time, in an age of artificial intelligence and computerization and so on, you know, even on our program, these students, we introduce them to Microsoft project software, etc. But the first thing I always say to them is, if you cannot map out a project with a pencil and a piece of paper, then don't even dare go near the software. Because if you don't understand and you don't have a deep appreciation of the background calculations that the software is doing, then you're lost to start off with, and you cannot trust or interpret anything that the software produces. And this speaks exactly to your point that you had to do those calculations, those here on the back of a cigarette box, eh?
Yes, indeed. What I would say is there's these things tend to go in phases. So as the computer programs came in, and I was closely involved with a few of the packages in South Africa in the late 80s, that there was this belief that whatever the computer says, it must be right. And it's almost like your GPS on your car now. You know it's sending you in the wrong direction, but somehow you follow it anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so I'll just move on to Coventry University. So this was the mid-80s, and it's interesting to compare the level of computerization. I was on their first cohort for this, to where we are now, and the 80s is now sort of very clunky by the capability that we have at the moment. So this design course or this engineering course we went on was mostly finite element analysis, linking into car production. Robots were very, if you look at the second slide there, they didn't really get further than putting components of a car together. They certainly weren't moving. But the other thing that came in, they were just starting to do solid modeling. And now this is a great resource to help you build whatever your project is, step by step, just to make sure that you have access where you're going to position the crane and the materials. So you can do it visually on a screen. And of course, you can communicate this with people so easily. And then if you can put man hours and dollar values to the items, you can develop an earned value aspect to it as well, which from a planning perspective, and then further from a monitoring and control perspective. So I'll just move on. So after I finished in Coventry, I then went to Saudi Arabia to work in ship repair. And in some respects, this was a very interesting period, because all the jobs we had, and I'll just give you an example. So let me just focus on this one first. This is what they call a floating dry dock. So the dock actually lowers into the water and the vessel is floated in, and then the dock rises again on the blocks you can just see in the middle of the picture there. And if I take you to the next one, maybe look at the bottom, you can see the two ships there and the top right. They're actually sitting on those blocks out of the water. So you can do all the blasting and painting and other repair activities. Now, these projects were all quite short, maybe a week or two. And when the vessel came out of the water, there'd be a quick check round and survey, and you'd find that the scope of work could well change. And that was very much what they would now call agile project management, defining the scope of work. And then, but the end date was fixed, because we would have another vessel which would want to come into the dock, and also these vessels would be on contract somewhere else. So the end date was fixed. So we used to have to sort of adjust the scope of work to make sure, and the resources to make sure that we finished on time. And as we moved closer to our end date, we would adjust the reporting cycle to from daily to hourly to real time. So very much an agile situation. So, well, actually, just getting back to that, this is actually where I made my transition from naval architecture to project management, because there wasn't that much design work for me to do. And we were part of the first team to work in this shipyard. And the manager felt he could just give the work to all the superintendents, and they'd manage themselves. But of course, it doesn't work that way. So I got involved in coordinating the work. So I would develop the list of jobs and give them out, and then I'd ask them to feed back to me which order they're going to do it, how they're interlinking with the other trades. And then I would produce a daily report of what was going on, and I would give this to the shipyard manager. And he thought this was brilliant, because the Arab who was running the facility or had the lease on the facility would ring him up each day and say, well, what's happening? And he would just read from this report that I gave him. So I was very much a coordinator. I wasn't the project manager, and he needed my report, and in turn that reinforced why the other people needed to report to me what was going on. And I think that was quite that's a position that probably your students are going to be in, that they won't be project managers to start with, but they'll be number crunchers, and that they need to sell that information and make themselves useful to ensure their position in the team.
Yeah, and that's what we now refer to as data.
Yes.
Converting data into decision-making tools called reports.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Yeah.
We were just using typewriters. You know that old thing?
Yeah, yeah. No, familiar with them, thanks.
So, so then when I thought I should make a switch into, well, initially it was into management, because this is the mid-80s and project management really, well, it wasn't a buzzword then. And in the process of looking for an MBA, I found that Henley Management College were offering a master's in project management, and I got onto their second cohort. So I felt I was in there at the beginning. And so the MBA was very much, or the master's was very much run on the back of their MBA program, which with part of it focusing on the special techniques of project management. And if you look at this side, I just wanted to identify some of those special techniques, because a lot of them have come from military projects, which was very much the background environment that I was working in. So the PERT is well known that came off the Polaris submarine project, but so did work breakdown structure, earned value, Gantt chart. Mr. Gantt was involved in shipbuilding. So you can, and these would be mostly American defense procurement, where you know, massive projects, programs, massive budgets, and a lot of them failing, and they needed these sort of tools and techniques to bring them under control. Then I came back to South Africa, and I was involved in, or I managed the project to build one of these stacker reclaimers for Richards Bay Coal Terminal. And so this was a heavy engineering project. The components were built in Vereeniging, and this was heavy engineering at its best, and it was really production management rather than project management. And the way they'd set this up, so this would have been the late 80s, they had an earned value system, although they didn't call it that. So every item of job, if you look at the top right there, that's part of the component of the stacker reclaimer. The every item of job would be identified and listed, and the man hours assigned to it, and the materials and the machines, etc., etc. It used to take weeks to get from the design office to the shop floor, but then they could track each job and see where they were, and that, of course, is earned value. Now, if I could just give you another aspect of this, this coal facility was massive, and what they would do, they would build little mountains of coal, and then the bucket wheel, if you look on the right side, would come and it would nibble away and flick that coal onto a conveyor belt system and take it to the ships, and they would move 6,000 tons of coal an hour, and it was enormous, and well, it still is. So after working there, I think I was 40, you know, midlife crisis situation, and I decided this would be a good time to go sailing. So we went back to Britain and we bought a yacht, and then over a couple of years we sailed out to New Zealand and had some great experiences. But this is the time I actually got into writing, and when I look back now, this is me writing on board. Look at this. Look at the computer I had, the lunchbox computer. I remember buying that in Johannesburg, and so my early books on project management were actually written on that small computer. We also wrote some books on blue water cruising, and bottom right there's me going off to lecture somewhere from our yacht with a trolley full of books and notes. And then this is my last slide now. So in some ways, I wanted to show the link between my experiences and artificial intelligence, which is the area I'm focusing on now. So I've just, in the top left, this is the book that, Dion, that you're going to be using next year. So this is where I've added, I've mostly just added the Internet of Things as a means to gather your data, and digital twins, which is any mathematical model. And of course, CPM, Gantt chart, all those special techniques are mathematical models. So they can also be called digital twins. So I'm now working on an MBA in artificial intelligence. I'm looking at a more general approach to the business opportunities associated with AI. I'm encouraging Sandra, my wife, to upgrade her fashion book, Fashion Artificial Intelligence. And bottom right there, that's how I do my proofreading, sitting on the deck of our boat in some remote anchorage. So that essentially completes my presentation. So I hope I've been able to show you the link from my experiences to how they come out as different techniques in my book. So back to you, Dion.
Rory, thank you so much. Please do me a favor, and can you now stop sharing?
Yeah, I was just going to do that.
And
so
maybe
can you
just switch on your camera again.
Ah, yes. Right, can you see me?
Yes, there we go. So Rory, I sit here and I look at the title of your talk today, and it says, the second part says where I went right and where I went wrong. So I assume we only heard the first half of your story, because I just heard where I went right, where I went right, where I went right.
Somehow I must have missed that bit out, as you said, Dion.
No, that was just an undercover. What he was saying is many years ago when he met me, Dion.
Yes. Okay. All right. All right.
Well, you know, when I look back, I did have a lot of different jobs, and I sometimes wonder if I'd stayed with them, what would have happened. And jumping around a lot, you do broaden your experience, but you might limit your advancement in different fields, because I became really a master of none. I've got quite a broad aspect, and that of course has really helped me bring my books together, because I've looked at different aspects. I do feel that I like the engineering side. That's in fact, I always remember when I was involved in the Middle East, everyone had an opinion on how to manage the projects. And there was a lot of interaction and challenges in that respect. But when I got involved in naval architecture, there's some calculations that needed to be done on the different ships. No one would come anywhere near me. And I sometimes look back on that and thinking, if you want peace in your life, pick a particular area of expertise and stay with it, and people will keep away from you. If you want lots of aggravation, project management is the perfect field to go down.
Rory, it's interesting that you ventured in that direction. I was going to ask you, project management being a skill that cuts across all industries. I mean, whether you're in financial services or in education or in medicine, engineering, it doesn't matter. There are always work that needs to be done, and projects find their way onto your desk. What is your thought, your thoughts around being a specialist and running projects that you are the specialist in versus running projects in a field that you're not necessarily the technical expert.
Well, there are pluses and minuses there, and I guess it depends how big the project is. Certainly, as the projects get bigger, you will move further away from the technical aspect of it. Smaller projects, you're probably better to be bordering on technical expert, so that you've got a clear understanding of what is happening. But there are lots of let's call them. In fact, one of the things I wanted to bring out, which I didn't, was document control. I had that on the Stacker Reclaimer project, and it started off. It was one of these projects which was going to be the same as they had already done, but different. And of course, that doesn't. You can't do that in engineering. It has to be either exactly the same or completely different, and the drawings have to be exactly as you're going to make them. And this got them into a whole load of mess as to what's the right drawing, what's the wrong drawing, and this was being left at the secretarial level to give out the drawings, and they didn't really understand documentation control. And what happened was Doorbell had just taken over another shipyard where they had been doing military projects, and they had a department for documentation control. Some guy who'd actually come out of the Scottish shipyards, and he knew it. Dan, he was an expert. Within a week, he had the full scope of work, all the drawings and control documents. Within another week, he made sure that every person who needed a certain document had it, and that the old ones were removed. And if I learned anything from that, or if I was to get involved in another project, that would be one of the first things I would look at. Make sure that you're crystal clear who's doing the documentation control, and it's not a secretarial job. But just getting back to your answer, you see, I would feel more comfortable managing a project where I understood the engineering aspects of what was going on. And you're quite right. As you go up the hierarchy, you're probably moving over more to the strategy and financial side. Whereas I see this as a little bit of a battleground that the accountants are winning at the moment. I'd like to see the engineers. I'd like to see some engineers in government.
That's a very fair comment. Listen, Rory, on that note, Chris has got a question for you. Chris, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi there, Mr. Burke. Thanks for your presentation. I think it resonates quite deeply with me, because a lot of the guys like the coal terminal in Richards Bay and Doorbell, and these guys are actually clients of mine, either in the past or currently as well. So there's a sense of familiarity there. But I think the question that I wanted to come down to is, I'm at a point now, unfortunately, I can't afford a yacht at 40, but I'm at a point of sort of progressing myself within project management a little bit more out of the ESCO side of things. And I'm trying to sort of investigate different avenues of my project management theory, and obviously practice as well. In your view, would you say, based on your experience, there's a few key elements that you would say project managers go wrong, in your view, that causes projects to fail? I mean, there's obviously a variety of different things. That's why project management are there. But is there a few key points that you can say, listen, if project managers could just rectify these few items, projects would run a lot smoother. Is there any failures that you might pick up that you feel could be better looked after? I don't know if it's possible to answer such a general question.
Chris, thanks for the question. I'm pleased that you know. Well, Doorbell I don't think exists anymore, but
they changed now. Yeah, they were brought over. Yeah.
So that was probably a good move that I left there then. Well, I can remember when I was doing the Stacker Reclaimer project that we always seemed to be chasing our tail. We'd sort of never quite get on top of it, and there was a lot of things I wanted to do, but I just didn't have the people and the time to do it. And I suspect that if something, it was almost like my management was a sliver on the top, and I was trying to hold everything together, and we got there in the end. I would have said one of the areas I did quite well in was to communicate closely with the client. Well, in this case, we actually had a number of clients, and we just let them know exactly what was happening, and some parts of it weren't performing very well, and others were, but at least they knew where it was. And in fact, the project did not finish on time as per the original schedule, but as it happens, they weren't ready for it either. So it didn't become it wasn't a problem in that respect. And in fact, we got a bonus for the work that we did. So in fact, if people say to me, did your project finish, was it on time, within budget, and to the required quality, then no, it was late, and we were slightly over budget, but we were to the required quality, and because everything was checked and inspected. So where projects go wrong, I've got a chapter on that somewhere. To me, the communication side, if you've got more information on what's actually happening with respect to your progress, it sort of reduces the amount of discussion that's going on, and it becomes clear whether it is on time or not. So that's an area I would push. I think particularly now, a lot more today than when I was doing it, procurement is an outsourcing. So you need to know what your suppliers are doing. This would be where expediting would come in, and of course with AI now, it's probably feasible to track and trace almost all your procurements. And if you know things are going to be late, then maybe you can adjust your schedule accordingly.
Thank you. So I mean, the communication essentially is an important aspect as well. I think it takes you from that uncertainty, your stakeholders' uncertainty to a more of a certain part. It doesn't change the fact that you might be late, but at least they are aware of what's happening. So it brings that pressure down, that pressure cooker down. So I get it. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Rory, just a comment here from Ivis Lombard. She said, interesting coincidence, just bought the Fashion Entrepreneur by Sandra Burke book this week at a charity shop for my 16-year-old daughter. I also was a matric in '86 in Richards Bay, and my dad, Ben Lombard, worked at RBCT as a mechanical engineer. So you might have crossed paths there at some stage. And then Mr. Johan Hoog, I'm not sure exactly what the question is. You're more than welcome, Johan, to ask your question. Not there. Okay.
Yeah. No, Rory, thank you very much. I think you look exactly the same as me, with the glasses and the little bit of going bald. But that is a generic thing, but as you know, you have two big things owning about the day that you buy it and the day that you sell it. So, but anyway, no, listen, to be quite honest with you, I think you had a wonderful, wonderful career. So what more can you contribute at the moment? I mean, what is sort of your 5-year plan now?
Well, in some respects, I look back and think, well, I could have done more here and more there, and it does give me more motivation to develop AI. I see AI as being the next big thing, and I particularly relate it to, I don't know where you were in 1981, but prior to 1981,
I was in Angola.
Well, you see, you travel around a bit.
No, I was in a military training there. Not my choice, sir.
Prior to 1981, there were a number of computers around, and they were called microcomputers in those days. And of course, that's where Microsoft developed its name from.
It was called IBM compatible.
That's right. So
Yes.
when in 1981 the IBM PC came out, everyone was using the same software because it was PC DOS and MS DOS, and I think in the next few years there's going to be that type of IBM moment which will establish the platform for AI type communication, and then it's going to take off. Once all your sensors are commercially available, I'm sure there's going to be a time fairly soon where we'll have real-time reporting on your projects, so you'll know exactly where you are. You're not going to have to wait till next week to see whether so-and-so's done the job or not. Also, you'll have real-time feedback on all your procurement. You'll know exactly where items are, and if anything gets delayed, which will happen, you can adjust. You can make allowances for that rather than finding out in the morning it hasn't arrived. You'll know the previous week. So I'm putting a lot of my motivation now is to write this book, MBA in AI, and because I see every aspect. AI has enormous business opportunities, and really the MBA program, executive programs, is all about opportunities, business opportunities. And I'm encouraged because I think there's only one degree in Britain there's only one MBA in AI, and that's at Coventry University. So this is the beginning, and I've always tried to get in at the beginning. And the more people that say we're not doing it, it means to me you will be shortly, and hopefully you'll use my material as your guidelines. And then it gives me the opportunity to make these presentations. Thank you very much, Dion.
Thank you, Rory.
Thank you, Rory. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost out of time. Any final thoughts, comments, question that you'd like to pose to Rory? Nothing at this stage. Johan, you have another question?
How old are you, sir?
I'm 69.
69. Are you moaning or bragging?
I'm just holding in there.
Yes. Oh, man. Listen, welcome to the club.
Thank you, Johan. Rory, then from my side, and from the business school side, from Prof. Pete and the students, You are a retired gentleman, but thank you for making an hour of your precious time available. Thank you also for the time that went into putting the slides together, the presentation. I'm sure it was also a walk down memory lane experience for you. It was such an honor to hear you share your life story, your history, but specifically the ties that it has to the field of project management. In the previous session, we had a lady speak about, the PMI and their role, and how this field of project management just connects to everything else and opens up so many opportunities. We just want to thank you for your contribution to this session. It was really fabulous. And yeah, of course, we look forward to using your material, like you rightfully said, and start paving the way for project management to become the AI discipline then.
Yes, and also Agile.
Of course.
To me, Agile is project management, or vice versa. And hopefully when this pandemic and other issues are over, I'll come and visit you in Bloemfontein again.
That would be such a big honor, and thank you so much, Rory. Johan?
Yes, Dion, listen, this guy, I need to meet this guy at the Bertie's mooring in Gordons Bay. He won the Cape to Rio thing twice. Bertie van der Merwe. My boat was at this mooring at Bertie's moorings. Okay. So please come down to Cape Town. Forget Bloemfontein, man. The Cheetahs is not doing that well at the moment, and the Stormers are also not doing that good. But come down, I will get you at the airport. I'll get you to Bertie's mooring for oysters.
That sounds excellent.
I think you need 12 oysters. It's 20 rand per oyster. It's about 1.20 shillings for an oyster.
Yeah. Well, actually, when we go back to South Africa, we actually do the whole lot. We start in Johannesburg, off to the Kruger Park, and then we literally go to Durban, down the Garden route, Cape Town, then back up to Bloemfontein, and then back to Johannesburg. So yeah, I'm not going to miss anything out.
Let me tell you one thing. I have one of my associates do training at the Cape Town Royal Yacht Club. Okay. So we will get you onto a boat, onto a yacht club, onto a yacht boat.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a member of the Royal Cape.
Really?
That would have been 1980-ish. And but I'm more of a cruiser than a racer. So
listen, Rory, we all have problems. Don't bring that up now. Okay, thank you very much.
Rory's yacht is moored in New Zealand, so he goes back and throws.
Wait. On the North Island or the South Island?
We're just north of Auckland.
That's not too bad, sir. I've been to the place called Christchurch. It's the most wonderful place.
It's a bit cold down there.
It's cold, and it's all the what do you call it? All these aardbewings, man, taking place there.
The earthquake. Yeah. Okay, gentlemen. Thank you. I'm going to have to rudely interrupt you there. Rory, thank you so much once again. And yeah, you'll be sure to make contact with me when you're back in South Africa. Thank you for everyone that attended as well.
Thank you
for the whole week. Thank you so much. I really hope that the whole week's range of sessions met your expectations, exceeded it, and that it aided in your development. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And thanks to Maria.